Warning. This video is about hate and hating on hate.
I own a Nintendo Switch 2 and my biggest hobby is playing video games. But the problem you'll notice with real life is that the more you pick up a hobby and more invested you become, it actually makes you hate the hobby more. And it no longer becomes this thing of enjoyment, but this thing of hatred that takes over you. So context, I made a video about how there are a lot of people who are just mindlessly hating on things that they enjoy, air quotes, enjoy, they're passionate about, and how that forced negativity does more harm to their passion, their hobby, their quality of life, and they can't see that. And everyone hated the video. Well, a video talking about the haters decided to hate. I tried my best. People are so indoctrinated into being hateful that they convince themselves, if I am more hateful, I will make the world better. And that sounds stupid, doesn't it? If I spread more hatred, maybe finally the big company will listen to me. So I'll get a little bit specific. Nintendo Switch 2 is expensive. It is extremely overpriced and nobody will buy it.
Nintendo says its new Switch 2 console has become the fastest selling of all time, surpassing the initial launch weeks of not just every Nintendo console in history, but also the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5.
You know, this whole situation reminds me of iPhone, Apple being extremely overpriced when it was first introduced. Microsoft CEO was laughing about it, but then what happens? It becomes the biggest fucking thing in the entire world. It becomes extremely successful and every competitor had to copy them. The truth is, the Nintendo Switch is wildly successful. It is not wildly overpriced because people are continually choosing to buy it. People love to hate mindlessly at all these large corporations. Tesla sucks, Amazon sucks. They don't give a fuck about people. They should not be valued at anything. But then again, they are the most valuable companies ever. And this is not to glaze giant corporations. It's to put people in reality that economics is a law and it's something you can't manipulate long term. They are valued so much, people buy the products because it actually does stuff for people's life. It is that simple. And I'm not saying they don't do bad company evil shit. They all do it. But another reason why AI, while so hated, is so valuable, trillions of dollars they're spending just to progress the technology, is because it is that fucking good. You don't need a therapist anymore. You don't need to read books. You don't need Google anymore. It is quite literally taking over animation, YouTube editors. It is that fucking good. That's why it's valued so much. Does that make sense? Things are valued at a certain amount because it actually provides something to the world. No amount of emotions, YouTube videos talking about how bad and stupid about minute details is going to change that fact. That's why the Nintendo Switch 2 is selling so much, because it's a good product. And people live in this fantasy that if I hate enough, I will finally get what I want. Now here's the truth. The reason why people complain about pricing with specific companies is because they want that $1,000 shirt. They want that overpriced piece of technology, but they just can't afford it. They are not the target audience. And their weird way of thinking at the world is that if I whine and complain like a baby little bitch, maybe something will actually change. And truthfully, that's not gonna happen. Like, I don't wanna be that guy, right? But I'm looking at the comments right now and people are typing out the stupidest shit. Things are objectively bad with video games now. No amount of fake positivity will change that. But they don't understand, right?
Fake or forced productivity scientifically enhances happiness, success, physical health, well-being. It's not a matter of being right, but being right.
Video games, if you have a negative perspective, will always be negative. At the very genesis of video game consoles, this is when they were at its complete shitter. Almost every video game company was about to fail because it was seen as a fad, not an actual entertainment, but just a stupid little toy people play with. And that's the truth. If you look at every generation with a lens of negativity, it will be seen as extremely negative. And the point of the video is to view things positively. But here's the truth. If you are as deep as I am into video games, if you watch the news videos about every single company, what is the most important thing they mention? It's about how shit everything is. Xbox Game Pass, PS4, they have no games. But truthfully, if you really think about it, that's not true. It's only how you want to perceive things. And this is not just in video games, but it happens in news, where every news cycle is purely negative, making you fear that the world is going to end. Everyone is out against you. And that's because that's what grabs people's attention. Now, this requires a lot more nuance and intelligence that maybe some people might not have, but I'll try to explain it. I do YouTube. There's a lot of people who do media, and their role is to make you give a fuck about things you should not care about. Every single YouTuber you enjoy watching, Moist Critical, Pyrocynical, every single one of them, PewDiePie, they make videos, Mr. Beast, about things you normally wouldn't give a fuck about, and their job, my job, is to enforce you into actually caring about something you don't care about.
This is one of the more infuriating stories I've seen in recent times.
Would you risk burning alive for $500,000?
Yes, let's do it, man.
Okay, good luck, man. You're braver than me. This is gonna be crazy.
And what's the best way to make you care about things? It's striking fear into your mind, because realistically, our day to day, nothing is actually threatened. Our lives are not actually threatened. We have a place to sleep, we have a place to eat, and these are assumptions, because if you're watching this on a fucking screen, then you have enough privilege to have all of those to worry about your own entertainment. These are very complicated conversations, and you still have the fear receptor that we have evolved into having. So what happens now? You're no longer actually scared of anything. So what motivates you to do things to fear receptors is through the media you watch. If you look and analyze, people think the things they are doing is a lot more important than it actually is. Look at the comments. It sucks now because companies like Nintendo act like crime lords trying to monopolize mechanics and take away modding like a dictator, and don't get me started on the brickening. Maybe people will know what this guy's talking about. Maybe people will not. Who cares? That's so powerful, because if people really want to play the games, they could play it illegally. And that's what everyone says in the comments. I'll just play it illegally. If you play it illegally, then why do you care so much about the price? Why do you care so much about the console? Well, it wraps back to the idea of companies saying it's overpriced with the iPhone. It's not really overpriced, is it? You want the product, but it's not good enough for you. Does that make sense? It's just because you're not the target audience, but everyone else that is enjoying it is just simply enjoying it. And it's this whole thing where people are weak, people are powerless, they have nothing going on with their lives. So to make them feel like they have control, they'll whine, they'll complain, like children. Children whine, they complain, and they only do that because they have no real power. They can't physically do things themselves. They don't have the financial power to do things themselves. So the only way they can do anything is whine and complain like a child, because they want to emotionally manipulate you. And that's what real adults do today when you see them in news cycles, in video games. Wow. They are embarrassing themselves, and they can't seem to see that, because if they genuinely want to see innovation and things to actually improve in the thing they are so passionate about, go do it yourself. But they have this weird manipulation for themselves and everyone else to justify that. No. If I sit here and complain like a bitch, only then will they change because they listen to the customers. Yeah, guys, maybe instead of complaining and doing nothing about it, instead, how about you actually make the difference that you want to see? Does that make sense? Why complain if you can be the difference? This is a saying that happens everywhere, right? And it seems so obvious, but when it's time to look at yourself in the mirror, you read all these inspirational quotes, you realize, yeah, that makes sense, but you're not doing it yourself. It's a rough conversation. This is a rough conversation. It's a little ranty. I needed to have this, but just remember, if you want to see change, be the change. If you want to be happy, then don't cry and whine like a baby. I love my Nintendo Switch. Is it overpriced? Yes. So what's gonna happen? Should I spend all of these hours complaining, making videos about how much they fucking suck? Or should I just get my money up and make the difference myself? You have control. Don't put control of your life, of your enjoyment onto other people.
The Nintendo Switch 2 is one of the best upgrades that we've seen from Nintendo. I returned my Nintendo Switch 2 and I do not regret it at all.
And I want to mention this, but critical thinking is very important. I used to be a tutor, and that's something people lack a lot. People think they know good advice and they follow it until it's time to look in the mirror. And it talks about just mindlessly following the crowd. The people, the leaders, they're the ones saying Nintendo Switch sucks or whatever company sucks, but they don't give a shit. That's where they make their money. They make their money from the negativity, and you guys feeding into the negativity are the product. Remember that. I was watching a Moist Critical video where he says, I will not support Nintendo because they are so greedy. And then he also does like Nintendo Switch game reviews. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess so. I mean, it makes sense, right? So just be very aware. There's going to be a part 2 to this video on the Patreon exclusively. So be sure to check that out. It becomes a little bit more unfiltered. Toodly-doo, like, subscribe, peace.